Hello everyone, how are you tonight? Carole Garrison with Carole's Creative Escape. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I am so thrilled to have you guys join me tonight to learn how to make an amazing Starburst card. I've seen these types of cards on and off over my 10 years with Stampin' Up! And I've always struggled to make them and get the layout quite right, and I came across another demonstrator that provided directions, apparently in a format that I could understand. And I've had a little bit of fun playing with it tonight and over the weekend, coming up with a couple different designs. And in fact, I liked what she did so much, I have recommended that you guys grab a piece of cardstock. This can be old colors, anything in your stash. Maybe it's even a paper you don't like and it's a good way to use it. But I just would recommend getting a piece of 3 3/4 by 5 inch piece of cardstock, and then along with that you also will need 3 strips that measure 2 inches by 4.5 inches. And like I said, I'm going to show you the one that I made. I use retired paper, retired cardstock, because I just want to keep this on hand as a template that I can then make cards easily following this pattern going forward. So, hi Lynn, hi April, thanks for joining us. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, well, first of all, let me do my little touch base, see how everybody's doing. I hope you guys all had a good week. I think it was last week I wasn't here. I don't even know where I was last week. How's that? I'm pretty sure I wasn't here and I did a recorded video, but I honestly don't even remember. That's how my week has gone. Had just a busy week at work. Our office is getting set to move, and so I've been really busy figuring out how we're going to get everything packed and moved and that sort of thing. And then I don't know what else. I just feel like I've been really busy. And then Saturday, John and I spent a little bit of time. We escaped. For those in Minnesota, when I say the North Shore, you're going to know what I'm talking about. We escaped on Saturday for a little day trip up to the North Shore. For those of you not in Minnesota, our state borders Lake Superior, a portion of Lake Superior. And so when you hear people from Minnesota saying they're going up to the North Shore, generally they're referring to northern Minnesota, kind of up in the Duluth, a little bit further past part of the state where you're literally on the shorelines of Lake Superior. And lots of waterfalls, lots of rivers, some extremely gorgeous state parks. And so we went up and did a couple hikes on Saturday with the dog, and ended up getting in about a little over 6 miles, I think. And really just as soon as I hear the roar of the waterfalls and the river and stuff like that, I kind of feel the world wash off my shoulders a little bit. So we had a nice, much needed break for that. And then that brings us back to Monday and make it Monday. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to flip my card over. Hi, Sandy. Thanks for watching. I'm going to not flip my card over, flip my phone camera around and get it hooked up in my camera stand here. So I apologize real quick for the flipping around and view of my somewhat messy desk, as well as the jiggling that's going to occur here. Let me get it going. I'm trying to get quicker at this so it doesn't last quite as long. And I think, hey, I might have done it pretty good tonight with just a little bit of manipulating. So anyhow, here we are. One of the things that, like I said at the beginning, if you want, go ahead and grab some cardstock and some scrap of designer series paper, and you can make a template along with me. Up to you, but I have found that I'm going to start doing this with some of my card layouts just so that I can more easily remember my measurements, and that way I can create the cards at a later point too, and kind of know what it is I'm going to be creating here. So the card that I'm making today, I've got a couple variations. One is a Christmas card, and it's the Starburst, which you can tell by the name on that. And then I made a masculine version of this card too. And I don't know if you've paid attention, I do not own the He's the Man stamp set, but I've been able to make multiple cards using just the designer series paper and then borrowing a stamp, usually a sentiment from another stamp set. But that paper, it works so well with lots of cards that you can make, even if you don't own the stamp set. So that's an option for you. And then this is that gorgeous Christmas paper that you've seen me use in a couple cards. And you know when I go gorgeous Christmas paper, then I'm fumbling around for what is the name of that gorgeous Christmas paper. And so I will tell you real quick. It is the Boughs of Holly designer series paper. And if you remember, there was one pattern that kind of looked like Christmas colored camo to me, and I didn't know how I was going to use it. I got it in on my card, and this is the other side of it. So I was able to incorporate those two, and I wasn't sure how I was going to like this card once I had all those patterns in there, but I think it works. So anyhow, there's a Christmas themed card using the Evening Evergreen and Cherry Cobbler as my color themes, and then inside I just a simple sentiment inside. And then, like I said, I used the He's the Man designer series paper, and I created a masculine cheers to all your years birthday card, and inside wishing you the happiest of birthdays. So there's a version of that. But what I want to show you real quick is how to cut the strips of designer series paper. So I've just grabbed a scrap from my designer series paper tower. It's a fairly big tower. And I just want to show you real quick how I cut things so that you can make your template. When you're cutting these 2 by 4.5 inch pieces of paper, you just want to line up the 2 corners in the trough of your cutter, so that the tips, every time I get it there, then I move my hand and I move it a little bit. All right, stay. So that the 2 corners are in there. And then you need your cutter, and you're just going to cut diagonally from corner to corner. Okay? And you'll do that with all 3 of the pieces of designer series paper. Just like this. And when I cut mine, I usually try to cut them all so that they're all angled the same direction. It doesn't really matter if it's going this way or this way, but I just, for some reason, cut all mine going the same way. And so you end up with 6 triangles. So that's how you get those cuts. And I'm going to show you then the next part. I laid out mine, again, using some other designer series paper. This is on a 3.75 by 5 inch piece of cardstock. And I played a little bit because the demonstrator that shared the information, her name is, I want to give her credit, Laura Stranks, and she's from Australia. And so that means the card base that she's using is bigger than the card base that we use here in the US. So I had to do a little bit of playing with measurements, and her directions actually said use a 2 inch by 4.5 inch piece. And I thought, since our card bases are a little bit smaller, maybe I could do 1 3/4 inch, and it didn't work out the same. I've got a little piece here showing and stuff. So I went back to the 2 by 4.5 inch, and it works a whole lot better. And so I've just written the name of the template on here, my top and bottom, or side and top measurements, and then the width of my designer series paper. And that's going to become my template. So you can create your own. I will show you how to line it up on your cardstock so that you're prepared to do that. The card I'm working with tonight, I'm going to be using the perfectly penciled designer series paper. And I actually spent some time coloring it with Pumpkin Pie, Daffodil Delight, and Poppy Parade. And Olive Garden. No, not Old Olive, not Olive Garden. Whole different thing we're talking about there. Oh boy. All right. Anyhow, these are the papers. I pre-colored them with my blends, and I just didn't want to take your time up doing the coloring because you know how to color. And so I've created those pieces. And so what I'd like to do is show you how I made the card. I do first need to do a couple sentiments, and I want to get those so that the ink can dry and get them run through. So I'm using my Poppy Parade ink, and I'm using sentiments from the Charming Sentiments stamp set. And I've used this one before. If you remember, there's the coordinating dies that work with each of these greetings. The die set itself is Sentiment Silhouette dies. And I have outlined each of the dies. That helps me keep track of whether I've lost one or not. And then because I was having a hard time on the fly just matching up some of these shapes with each of these sentiments, I went through and created a numbered list on the back side of the insert. So I know if my sentiment is thank you, I need die number 10, which is of course on the other sheet of dies. But I would pull it out and just grab die number 10, and that would work with my thank you sentiment. So these are the dies that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to stamp my sentiments right onto my cardstock. And I don't care if it's straight or not because I'm going to be die cutting them out. But you may notice my images are crooked on my blocks. That's done on purpose. I find I get straighter images when I'm focusing on my image as opposed to focusing on whether or not I have it on the block straight. I found that I would try to line up the block rather than the sentiment, and so this just works for me. Everybody can do their own thing. Get my Simply chamois and wipe off my blocks. Set those aside, and then I'm going to grab my mini cut and emboss machine, and I'm telling you guys, I love this thing for working on my desktop for videos like this. So let me go, put down the other side. You can tell I've used it a lot. Look how scratched up these plates are. I've just ordered another set. Not that I need to replace these yet, but I did want to have a set on hand. And I'm going to put I got to make sure I'm getting my woohoo in the right direction here. That looks like my W. Okay, so with these word stamps, they do line up pretty well, but you know, sometimes when you run stuff through your Big Shot, it causes them to jump just a little bit. And so to hold my die in place, I've just grabbed a piece of washi tape. And again, this is expired washi tape because what better use for that? You wouldn't want to use your good stuff. Okay, that silence was me focusing, trying to get the die lined up. All right, and again on this one, I'm just going to add a little bit of washi tape to hold it in place, and I will crank these through. And now we've got our sentiments. And I'm going to carefully pull off the washi tape because sometimes it does stick. Okay, I got it. I can get rid of that scrap of paper. So look how nicely those line up. If you're looking for a good sentiment stamp set, and you like to have things cut out but don't like to fussy cut, this Charming Sentiments is the way to go. I'm telling you. So I'm going to set that aside, and then we are going to start to assemble the card. And I am starting out with a piece of Poppy Parade that measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And I've scored it at 5 1/2 inches. So we'll just go ahead and fold that over and burnish it with the bone folder. So again, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And then I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock, which is going to be going on the inside of my card. So that's a 4 by 5 1/4 inch measurement. We're going to be putting one of our sentiments on that, so we'll set that aside. And then I've got a piece of Daffodil Delight. This also measures 4 by 5 1/4 because it's going to form the first layer on my card. And then this is my 3 3/4 by 5 inch piece of cardstock. And I have already gone ahead and pre-marked it. I have found that for putting the first pieces of my Starburst pattern on, it helps me a great deal, and it may help you as well. If you put just a little tick mark at, what would that be, 8/16, so it would be 9/16, actually, excuse me, 7/16 and 9/16. And that is getting it centered, so when you start lining up your first pieces, I've kind of found that that helps me. The other thing that I like to do with my patterns is lay them out ahead of time so that I'm sure I've got a good balance. I don't have to worry about taping them down and removing them and anything like that. So I have basically used the front and back of both pieces of paper and colored them in. So let's go ahead and just see what we come up with for some patterns here. And I kind of had this in my head last night, so we'll see how well I remember it. Then I think we went like this and like this. And you're going to have your paper go off the edge. That's exactly what we want because we want this to basically run to the edge. And so then we're going to add that piece here, and the leaves will go down here. So I think that's my pattern. I'm not going to fuss a whole lot about it. And I'm just going to kind of push it off to the side, and then I will grab my seal, and I'm going to also suggest that you use the mat, the silicone mat underneath it, just because your adhesive is going to get sticky, and get the cat hair off of that. It'll help absorb some of that stickiness. And you do want to make sure you're getting adhesive down, even though we're going to be cutting a good chunk of the point off. Make sure you run your adhesive pretty close to the bottom. And you'll line this first piece up then right so that that tick mark you made is covered, and do your best to get it fairly straight on there. I don't press down on it yet, just in case I need to do a little shifting of things. And so the next piece we're going to assemble. And again, I want to just get a little bit of adhesive down there. And so I will put this piece again right up to the tick mark. And the piece I find I struggle with the most is keeping the spaces even in between the pieces of paper, especially on this first piece. So make sure that you've got that straight. And then we're just going to continue with the process. And run this one through. And the key thing here is you want to make sure that you are getting down to the base of the paper, but also covering the edge of the paper up here. It looks like I'm off just a little bit. And I'm going to hope that I can lift this piece up. Whew, I did it. And go just a titch higher on that end. And bring it back down to here. Okay, much better. And then I'm going to go back and do this side. I find kind of building out each side helps me. And again, you want to make sure that that little bit of the corner of the card is covered and that you're being pretty consistent on your spacing. It doesn't have to be perfect. But close to it, right? Okay. So I'm going to press these down now because I know I'm not going to move them. For these last two pieces, what I found worked better for me is to actually put the adhesive directly onto the cardstock. And I didn't go too close to here because I want to make sure that border isn't affected by it. And so you may find that you need to shift this piece around a little bit. And even possibly rotate it this way just to make sure that you're covering up that corner. And so there we go with that. And I'm going to add just a titch of adhesive on the bottom of that. And then I'm going to repeat the process here. And I did go up a little bit higher than I wanted to, but I can pull that back, and we'll just add our last piece of cardstock right here. And again, make sure that you've got the corner covered. Okay, and so you say, well, Carol, these two don't look at all alike, and you're right, they don't yet. But what you're going to do next is just get your trimmer out. I know some people can cut straight lines and do that. For me, I find that it's easier to line stuff up again kind of in the cutting trough of my cutter here. Oops. And then I'm just going to run my cutting blade and get rid of those pieces. And then I'm going to rotate it and do the same thing. Close it. And I run my cutter. And it's okay if it's not quite going to be perfect because that isn't going to show a whole lot. Or you can go back and trim it with your scissors, which I think I may do. Put it back down. And then I will grab that last piece. Okay. And then, like I said, oh dear, it looks like I have frozen up. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. My internet kind of went funky on us. So sorry for the camera moving here. I am just going to finish trimming up this one last edge because even though I said it doesn't really matter, it's bugging me, so it does matter. Okay. We'll set that aside and get rid of my paper scraps. I'm still not happy with that rough edge that this left, so I'm going to just trim off some of that. Okay, the more I touch it, the more it's going to get, so I'm just going to stop. All right, so here's my card. Now, because I've got some directional things in here, I can either put it on my card going this way, or I could make it go this way on my card as well. I think because this is so distinctly up and down, I'm going to do it in this direction. So let's start with the assembly. But this piece basically gives you your template. So I've shown you how to make that. And now you can just set that aside and have it ready to go. Like I said, I've seen this card multiple times and I've tried making it and I've never liked it in terms of how it's turned out. And for some reason, these directions were just what I needed to see to get this effect going. So to assemble the card, we're going to place this layer. Either my yellow layer is too small, or this layer is too big. So that might get me a chance to get rid of my, yes, it's too big. You know what that means? This is not a problem because I can get a cleaner cut and not have to worry about that rough edge. See, it all works out. I love it when things go wrong like that and you can easily make a quick fix to it. All right, now we'll layer this onto my Daffodil Delight. And then we're going to just layer this piece onto here. And you know, for my coloring on this, I literally took pens and ran them through the lines. Obviously the flowers took a little bit more time, but I just randomly colored stuff. I didn't worry about being perfect on there, and I would encourage you guys to do the same. It doesn't have to be super fancy. We're going kind of for a watercolor look, and that's what we've got here. So I'm just looking for a piece of ribbon. And I thought I had some old olive in my box here. I do. Okay. This is old olive ribbon, and it comes as part of a set from the annual catalog. And it comes also with a linen type ribbon. And once again, Carole's trying to talk her way through. It is the Old Olive and Sahara Sand Twill ribbon combo pack. And so this is the Old Olive piece, and this is the Twill piece. Both of these are really nice ribbons, but I want to pull out that Old Olive color. And so that is what we're going to do. Yes, Judy, it would be a great idea. You could get a beautiful sunrise one maybe when you go on your adventure. All right, so what I am going to do is just make a little bow. And I'm going to grab my little bow maker because I do a better job with bows when I have this. Slide it off. And then I get my ribbon scissors. And I have a bow. Okay. And then on this one, I'm going to put the Super Fantastic Mega News on the front. And I will attach this with, I'm going to do dimensionals. This part I'm kind of doing on the fly because I didn't have this part of my card fully created. And you don't really want to put a lot of stuff on here. This was another point that Laura Stranks made in her demonstration, is you don't want your sentiments and things to detract from the designer series paper that you've created and that fantastic star image. So I'm going to follow those guidelines and take a mini glue dot and add my bow to the front and trim it down just a titch. And then on the inside of my card, instead of just stamping, I am doing this woohoo. It's not going to show that I die cut it a whole lot, but I like the look of it a little bit better than just stamping. It gives it a little depth. And so because of the size of this, I'm just going to use a couple of glue dots, or yeah, mini glue dots to adhere it to the inside of my card. But you want to make sure that you're putting it the right direction for how your card is running. And then we'll just put adhesive on the back of this. Remember, light touch, gentle, and then you don't have to peel up the tape like I just did. And we'll center this in the middle of the card. And so we've got the super fantastic mega news. Woohoo! And of course, it wouldn't be a card if I didn't put this little stamp on the back of my card. So I'm going to do that real quick. And I have one last embellishment that we're going to add. Today I'm using the flower one because it matches the, well, it has flowers just like the cardstock. I shouldn't say that it matches what's here. And the reason I'm putting these stamps on, and I'm trying to do this now as I make the cards, is this way if I sell any of these, I already have the angel policy fulfilled and I don't have to slow down if I want to sell something to make sure that I've got all my cards stamped. One other thing that I die cut out of this die set are these two images. And I can't really tell if this is a flower or a butterfly. I'm calling it a butterfly because that works better for my card today. So butterfly it is. Next card, it might be a flower. And I'm just going to put a little glue dot on here and pop that up right there just to add a little bit more to that section of cardstock. So here you go with this card again. This is the perfectly penciled. It's black and white, and so you can make it whatever colors you want. I use Pumpkin Pie, Poppy Parade, Old Olive, and Daffodil Delight to color on here. Randomly selected lines and dots and things like that. And then on the inside I've got my woohoo stamp, and that makes this card. So got kind of an exciting news card. And then again, I made a masculine version of this card using He's the Man designer series paper. And finally, I have a Christmas card here using the Boughs of Holly designer series paper. So very easy cards. Like I said, go ahead, make your template. Your base of this is 3 3/4 by 5, and each of these, each 2 sets of paper is a 2x4 paper that we've just cut diagonally from corner to corner. And now you've got a template so that you can recreate the design. That is what I have for you guys this week. I hope you had fun and that you're going to try this card. As always, if you make this card, please feel free to post it in the comments. I do like to see what other people create. I think we can all give ideas to each other. So don't feel bashful about posting them here and sharing your creativity with others. You never know who you're going to inspire along the way here. If you have any questions on measurements or whatever, just drop me a comment and I will be sure to get back to you. Hey, you're welcome, April. Thanks for watching. And I will see you guys again next week for another Make It Monday. Thanks for stopping in, everyone. Bye-bye.